something I want to rant about today is podcasts, YouTube channels, and what I'm listening to and why I think others should listen as well. So there are a few podcasts that I really listen to and a few YouTube channels I really follow. My favorite YouTube channel to follow is Cross to Crown Ministries. Cross to Crown Ministries talks a lot about how Jesus is the center of our theology, and Jesus should be the main core and the main gravitational center that we should have in our life, in our spiritual disciplines, and in our ministries. I really, really like that. And then, of course, there are staples like Paul David Tripp and John MacArthur. Obviously, John MacArthur, right? Alistair Begg, people like those guys. So those are the YouTube channels I follow. Now, there's a podcast that I'm currently listening to, which I think every ministry person should listen to. The title is The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. I don't know how familiar you are with the Mars Hill controversy, but the pastor there was Mark Driscoll. I'm actually one of the guys who listened to their podcasts when it first began. I followed his ministry from the very, very beginning. I know this because when I first clicked download all, podcasts, click all, download all, there were only 7 podcasts. So I had to wait once a week to download the next one, the next one, the next one. So I started, I really followed their ministry from the very beginning. And it was really, really great until it wasn't. And it exploded or imploded. A lot of issues came up, a lot of problems occurred. And one of the big things that I noticed now, of course, 2020 vision is always hindsight, right? I noticed today that Driscoll had always had a pride problem. He always had a pride problem from the very beginning. I thought it was interesting how when he preaches, it's so charismatic. Not charismatic in the doctrinal sense. Charismatic in, the way he talked, the way he spoke, the language he used, the words he chose, the phrases, the phraseology, all of that. It was very charismatic. This guy was a great, spectacular communicator. I think he's one of the best communicators out there. But one of the things that the podcast said is that a lot of preachers, a lot of pastors, their skill overtakes their character. Their skill in leading, doing ministry, preaching, teaching, explaining, their skill overtakes their character. And what happens is they get skyrocketed or catapulted into fame so quickly, and then the pride comes in. The problem with Mark Driscoll, was that I think now in hindsight, just thinking of his sermons, thinking of how he spoke, thinking of how he branded Mars Hill, he had a pride problem from the start. And he sort of admitted that when in the documentary it reveals so many things that were not revealed before. So years ago, I was following the controversy. I was reading all the blogs. There was about, I think, 12 blogs or bloggers, 12 bloggers or sources that I would follow on a weekly basis on what was happening with Mars Hill, Mark Driscoll, Acts 29, the whole shebang, right? There were about 12 that I'd read a week. And now there are new facts and new details that are out that I never heard before. These come from investigations that have exposed everything. And there's actually an 11-page document signed by 21 former pastors of Mars Hill talking about everything, complete with links and all of that in the document. So that's a lot. Yeah, so he had a pride problem from the very beginning. In one of the trainings, he actually said that he is the brand of Mars Hill. He said in the trainings, and this is really his voice. This was his voice. I know his voice. So he said in the training, your job is to get them to come to listen to me. So that shocked me. So in his mind, he is the brand. He is the guy who's the most effective. If you got to do it, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. He's that guy. He's the guy who thought that he would be the best evangelist for everyone, and no one would come unless he's the one who's speaking. He thought that about himself, and I thought, wow, that's crazy. That's the kind of pride that we all want to avoid. That's deadly level pride. And so I'm sharing this because I think everybody should listen to this podcast. It's a series. I hope that this would really, really open our eyes as people in ministry. It doesn't matter if you're a guy, you're a girl, or what level of ministry you're in. You could be an usher, you could be a worship leader, you could be a teaching pastor, you could be a counselor. Listen to the podcast. If you're doing ministry, find out what went wrong there, because this documentary gives details that are so important and so relevant for even us today. Just as a side note, I'm kind of pastoring right now. Well, not really. I'm on sabbatical. I'm a pastor, but I'm on sabbatical sort of with the church. I'm serving in or serving at. We're a very, very small church. Very small. We don't live stream. We don't Facebook Live. We used to upload our videos, but right now we don't upload anything because first the audio was really, really bad when we were meeting outside, and then now that we're meeting inside, we're going through a really, really wonderful season of transition, and a wonderful season of new preachers coming in, men from the church learning to preach more, being trained, getting into the thick of things. It's so encouraging and so exciting. And so we don't want to broadcast that into the world. We don't want to, like show everything and this is our training. Look at us train. And listening to the podcast now, I really had to say, Lord, thank you. Thank you so much. Because with Mars Hill, when they were still training their men, when they were still teaching men to become preachers and stuff, they uploaded everything. They broadcasted everything. They showcased to the world how great they were. And that led to their downfall. So I think it is by grace that God actually prevented our very small, tiny, cute little church. God, by grace, prevented us from uploading anything at all during this season, because we want to keep things more intimate. We want to keep things more precious, I guess is the word. It feels, to me at least, it feels very precious. And I just feel it would be so much better to start uploading the sermons once again when this season of training and transition and transformation is done, and we are ripe. I guess that's the word, when we are ripe as a church in preaching and teaching to the public once more. And I think that's such a precious time. This is such a precious time, and that's one of the cautionary tales of Mars Hill, and one of the things that I hope other churches would learn from. If you're training people, if you're still learning, if you're still going through a season of transition or transformation or training, try to keep it as intimate as possible, so that it's more precious for your people, it's more precious for the flock, and it gives you more confidence for later on. So I hope this helps. Please listen to that podcast, The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. It's on Spotify, it's on Google Cast, it's on all the podcasts websites. God bless you guys.